Hello everyone. Welcome you all to another session of Banking and Financial Services class. I am Impa Piliyappa, Associate Professor, Department of Management Sciences, Maharaja Institute of Technology, Mysore. In my previous class, you have got an insight about the structure of banking in India and the functions of RBI, where we learned the meaning of banks, where a bank is a financial institution that provides banking and other financial services to their customers. The word bank is derived from the Latin word called banco or bancus, which means a bench. In the banking structure, the structure is divided into scheduled banks and non-scheduled banks. Further, the scheduled banks are being divided into commercial banks and cooperative banks. We also learned the different types of commercial banks, wherein we learnt about nationalized banks, public banks, private banks, foreign banks, and regional rural banks. In the cooperative banks, we learnt about the central, state, district, and other cooperative banks. In the previous class, we also discussed the functions of RBI, which was divided into banking functions, supervisory functions, and promotion functions, where the banking functions includes the printing of currencies, the banker's bank, and also the credit control and many more. And in the supervisory function, they supervise the other commercial banks. And in the promotional functions, we learn that they promote the national schemes issued by the government. In today's class, we'll be discussing the functions of commercial banks. Before knowing the functions of commercial banks, let's distinguish between RBI and commercial banks. When we distinguish, we'll understand how different are the functions from RBI to commercial banks. To come up with the first difference, the RBI is set or established according to the RBI's Act of 1934, whereas the commercial banks are governed by the Banking Regulation Act of 1949. That is the major difference of their setup. Another difference is RBI acts as a bank for the government and also for the rest of the banks. But commercial banks act as a banker for the business as well as individual citizens of India. RBI is the highest monetary and financial authority in India. But whereas the commercial banks, the authority vests with themselves. If it is private, then with the individuals, and if it is government, it is public, then it is with the government. And coming to another difference, RBI is owned by a sole government itself, but commercial banks are owned by private institutions and also public. To come with the functions which we are dealing with today, that is the difference between the functions, where we have already learned the functions of RBI, that is we have discussed about the note currency and note printing, then bankers to the bank, bankers to the government, advisory services, stabilization of inflation rates, exchange of rupees, and how it performs for the development function. These are the functions which we have already discussed about RBI. And coming up with the difference of functions in commercial banks, today we'll learn how different it is when compared with the Central Bank of India, which is RBI. Okay, let's begin with the functions of commercial banks. In the functions of commercial banks, the commercial bank functions are divided into two categories, that is primary function and secondary function. Again, the primary function is divided further into two categories, that is deposits and advances. In deposits, we have different kinds of deposits known as savings deposit, fixed deposit, current deposit and recurring deposit. And in advances, we have overdrafts, cash credit, loans and discounting of bills. Coming to the secondary function, it is divided into two categories, agency function and utility function. Under agency function, You will get fund transfer, periodic payment, collection of checks, portfolio management, periodic collections, and other agency functions. Under utility functions, you get the service of drafts, lockers, underwriting, project, social welfare, and others. So this is how the functions of commercial banks are split into primary and secondary. Now in detail, we'll discuss each one of these points. Starting with the primary function. What is a primary function? Primary function means the main functions of a bank, which is also known as the banking functions. To start with the primary function, we have the deposits. So in the previous classes I've told you, bank is an authority which pools the savings from the public. So here, where this inculcates the quality in the people for the purpose of savings. They create a saving habit. So that is the first account, which is the savings account. The type of deposits encouraged here, which builds the savings habit among the people. Here, the withdrawals on the deposits are allowed only to certain amount on a particular day. There is restriction, but this varies from banks to bank. Private banks have a different limitation, whereas nationalized or public banks have a different restriction. This account is suitable for the people who are earning their monthly salary or wages, where they have regular income. We can say periodical income, maybe monthly income or daily income or weekly wise if they get the income. This account is suitable for them. And this account can be opened either in the name, in a single name, or with the joint names. If the husband and wife willing to open up a savings account together, that is also possible. The interest rate differs from 3 to 4%. That is, individual banks have their own rates. For example, SBI, it is 3.8, and if I say IDFC, then it has 6%. So like this, there is variation in the interest rates. Next, coming to the second deposit, that is the fixed deposit. The name itself tells you that the amount which is invested in this bank or deposited in this bank is fixed, and it is in lump sum. It is one time specified amount is deposited in the account, but it has higher interest rate when compared to savings account. There is advantages and disadvantages also. Advantage, we can say that the interest rate is higher. It varies between 5 to 7% depending again on the banks and depending on the period also. As the period increases, the rate also increases. But the disadvantage is it is not possible to withdraw whenever you need. Okay, there will be lock-in period. Only on the expiry of the time you get the amount. If you draw initially, then the interest rate will reduce. Interest amount will reduce. This account is suitable for the people who are having surplus cash. For example, the pension fund which you receive at the time of retirement. If you want to save it for a later stage, then you can use this account for depositing of money. Coming to the third account, which is the current deposit. Current deposit is mainly suitable for businessmen, and again it has certain advantages and disadvantages too. Advantage is withdrawal is free and they have got an overdraft facility. Even though there is no funds in the account, the customer is able to draw cash, and also if a check need to be cleared and you don't have fund in the account, then automatically the bank will clear your check on your behalf. That is the advantage. Coming to the disadvantage, there is no interest being paid and there are service charges for this. This is suitable for businessmen who have irregular incomes and irregular payments. Coming to the last account, which is the recurring account or recurring deposit. This type of deposit is suitable for salaried people and also for petty traders, because you can keep on depositing some amount of money for a certain period of time. So, periodical deposit is possible. Again, advantages and disadvantages. There is a higher rate of interest, that's an advantage, which ranges between 5 to 6 depending on the bank. But the disadvantage is withdrawal is permitted only on the expiry of a certain period of time. So this is about the deposits where we have savings, fixed, current and recurring. Based on the customer's need, they can tailor the account, and whichever they wish to, they can deposit their money. But the main motto is to create or inculcate a habit of saving among the citizens of the country, which will in turn become the investment for the corporates. That I'll tell you in the later part. Coming to the advances. Now we have got some money through the savings or the money which is being deposited in the bank through this deposits account. What will be the money be used for? That is nothing but the advances. We can call it as loans and advances. These loans and advances are especially for the purpose of business. It can be also be availed for individual members. The difference between the deposits and advances, the percentage of interest is always higher on the advances and less for the deposits. Okay, it ranges between 1 to 2%, 3% variation among the deposits and the advances, and whatever difference in the interest rate are there between the deposits and advances, that is the profit for the bank. In that advances, the first one is overdraft. I have slightly explained about overdraft in the previous deposits of we discussed about the current deposits, but even then this type of advances is only provided for the current account holders, and there is no separate account is maintained. With the regular account of the customer only, this overdraft facility is provided. They fix a certain amount of overdraft which is already been fixed, but it has to be the withdrawal can be within that certain period. For example, 10,000 is fixed for that particular month, then that 10,000 is fixed and it has to be withdrawn that within that particular 1 month, and interest will be charged on the actual amount of withdrawn. For example, 10,000 is the upper limit, but you withdraw only 5,000, then the interest will be charged for only that 5,000 rupees. And this overdraft facility will be given only on the only for providing collateral security. If you provide a collateral security, then only the overdraft facility can be availed. And this is sanctioned for businessmen and for firms. Depending on normally the overdraft interest charges, what they charge will be more than 1% more than the deposit rate. Again, it differs from bank to bank. Coming to the second one, that is cash credit. So here the client is allowed a cash credit up to a specific limit fixed in advance. The amount which of cash credit will be fixed in advance, and also it is available to current account holders and also to the customers who don't have account in that particular bank. They can also avail this facility of cash credit. Here interest rate is charged on the amount withdrawn in excess of limit. Whatever limit it is there, if they draw more than that, then the interest is charged, and the interest rate is quite high, that is 10 to 11%. Again, it varies in fractions. And this cash credit is on the basis of the security of tangible assets or guarantees. They provide this cash credit, and normally the cash credit term, that is time duration, will be more than the overdraft. The amount and time will be more than the of overdraft. Let's move on to the next one, that is loans. This is very much you will be knowing about the loans. Many of you all might avail these loans also. Now banks are mainly concentrating on short-term loans and medium-term loans. Due to the difficulties in collecting back, collecting back the principal amount, they have reduced the payment of long-term loans. Short-term loans vary with a period of 1 year, whereas medium-term loans vary with 1 to 5 years, that we call it as medium term. And repayment, you can do it in the form of installments, and the amount sanctioned, whatever the amount sanctioned is, whether withdrawn or not, the interest charged is on the actual sanctioned amount. Okay, and this is also being given on the basis of tangible assets which you have, which you pledge in the banks. So here the interest rates when compared to the overdraft and cash credits, it is lower when compared to these two, and again it differs. You can to give an example for this, there is car loan, there is agricultural loan, there is gold loan, there is educational loan, there is home loan. So the loans are different, but if you take car loan, then it is around 9 to 10% differing in fractions. Agricultural loan, you have different purpose, like for the dairy, for the equipment, like this it has slabs. It starts from 7% until it goes up to 11%. Depending on the purpose, it differs. Then you have gold loan, which differs from 10 to 12%. Then you have education loan, again it differs from 10 to 12%. Then you have home loan. Comparatively to all the loans, home loan is having lesser percentage of interest. But again, within 30 lakhs, it is 6%. After 30 lakhs, there is slightly increase in the interest percentage, and also depends with the time. This is about the loans. Next, we'll go to the discounting of bills of exchange. So, to tell you about the bills of exchange can be both domestic and foreign bills. But whenever the seller does not want the cash immediately and the buyer doesn't have enough cash, then the bank acts as an intermediary between the buyer and the seller. The buyer approaches the bank, asks them to draw a bill in the favor of the seller, purchases the goods, instead of money, gives the bills of exchange to the seller. Now, if the seller wants immediate cash, then the seller goes to the bank, approaches it for its clearance. Now, the bank will have the discount charges for the bills of exchange, reduces the money, cuts the percentage, clears the bill. Later, the bank will collect the amount from the buyer. This is how the bills of exchange works. To tell you clearly, we put in terms of beneficiary, drawee. The bank pays the bill amount to the drawer or the beneficiary of the bill by deducting the discount charges. Okay. Later on maturity, the bill is presented by the drawee or acceptor, and the bill is cleared or collected by the bank. This is about the advances. Whatever deposits is being made by the citizens of the country or the account holders, that is converted and gave as a loans and advances to the customers or non-customers, which in turn will generate income in the form of interest to the banks. This is about the primary function. Moving on with the secondary functions. So, what do you mean by secondary? Primary are the basic functions. Secondary are called non-banking functions. Apart from these taking the money and giving the money in simple language, you can segregate the secondary function into agency function and utility functions. To segregate it to agency function and utility function, let's understand what do you mean by agency function. So, agency functions are those services of the banks that provide the customers for which they get some income, they receive some income. This generates income for the banks. Okay, agency function are those services that provide banks an income. They give the services to the customers, in return they get commission or charges for it. That is the meaning of agency function. To start with that, we have transfer of funds or fund transfer. So nowadays it is in this very busy schedule of life where everyone is working for their living, it is very difficult for you all to go to the bank and transfer the amount. Here, fund transfer can be made in terms of mobile banking or in terms of internet banking. that is through NEFT, RTGS, or mail transfer or demand drafts. This fund transfer transfers the amount from one bank to another bank, from one place to another place, from one customer to another customer, or to the same customer's different account. That is about the fund transfer. In detail about the fund transfer, we'll be dealing it in the unit 2 individually. What is NEFT, what is RTGS, what do you mean by electronic fund transfer? Everything in detail we'll be learning it in unit 2. Coming to the next, periodic payments. So periodic payments, normally as I have already quoted, with the busy schedule and life, it is always difficult to remember what you need to pay. For example, your electricity bill, your telephone bills, rent, premiums of insurance policies, all these it's very difficult to remember, because some insurance policies you get monthly premium payments, some you get quarterly, some you get semi-annually, and some annually. In the same way, rent, electricity and telephone charges you get monthly. So it is difficult to remember their dates and amount. So what you do is you approach the bank and give the standing instruction to the bank to make the periodic payments. So automatically when the bill is generated, it is cleared from the bank. That is about the periodic payments. Then comes the collection of check. Okay, in the collection of check, you can see that the bank collects the money in the form of checks, bills of exchange, drafts, promissory notes, or other negotiable instruments which is deposited by the customer through the clearing section. The bank collects them on realization of the credit on the account of the customer. For this activity and for the previous activity, the bank charges the commission. Okay, suppose there are different kinds of checks that you have to take. Suppose if you can't go to the bank, you want to give money to someone, then automatically you put a check and you give it. In that also you get different types of check: payee check, bearer check, or you can make use of the check for self withdrawal too. So that is about the collection of checks. Then coming to the next, which is portfolio management. Portfolio management means the combination of securities. It might be the combination of different shares, it might be the combination of different debentures, or it might be the combination of shares and debentures too. This also includes bullion, that is trading of gold and silver. The facility is given by the commercial banks to purchase and sell the shares or debentures, gold or silver, within the country or outside the country with this function. Accordingly, they will be charging certain amount of commission from the client to manage their portfolios or to give this facility. Next, coming to the next, periodic collection. So what do you mean by periodic collection? Periodic collection, before we move on to the periodic collections, let's finish others here, because once we know others, then automatically you will understand what is periodic collection. So other agency functions include where the bank acts as a trustee, executor, attorney, advisor and administrator on behalf of the clients. To tell you some examples for this, how it acts as a trustee. For example, banks take the liability of the management of their properties of the customers, only of the customers. They take the liability of their management of their liability, for which they charge, hence they are known as the trustee. If we have to call them as executors, then they preserve the will. Will is what, if there is any ancestral property or the property which you have made, which has to be passed on to the next generation or to some other person, then you write a will that what property or which property has to go to whom. That is known as will. And if they preserve the will of the customer and execute after their death, then we call them as executors. So that is one kind of an act. The next, attorney on behalf of the customer. The bank signs the transfers. The power of attorney is given to them to take any kind of decision based on the customer. Then we call them as attorney. Then if we have to call them as advisor, then they advise the customers for the purpose of investment. So these are all the different roles which a bank plays. He can play, the bank can play as a trustee, they can play as an executor, attorney, advisor or administrator. So these are the different roles. Assuming these roles, coming to the next function, which is periodic collection. Here, periodic collection means if the banks has to give, if the banks has to get the dividends on behalf of the customers, if the customers have to get their salary, if the customers have to get their pension, then all these are collected by the bank and directly it is deposited to their account. So that acts as a periodic collection. And also to include to this, the banks issue credit card to the customers. This credit card, even though you don't have money in your account, then you draw, then later on you have a specific period of 1 month, stipulated period will be there where the billing period will be there, and for that, on that day the billing will be generated and you have to clear that amount. And EMI facility is also available, but the interest rate is charged. Up to that specified period there will be no interest. After that period, when it is converted or not been paid, then the interest will be levied. Even for the farmers, they give green cards. So with the help of green cards, they'll be able to purchase the agricultural inputs on credit, and later on they can pay back the amount after the harvest. These are the basic agency's function, but along with these agency function, the bank acts as an agent to the customer, where if the customer approaches for the purpose of traveling tickets or for the purpose of getting a passport, then the banks will make an arrangement to get it done. So it acts also as an agent. And also for the purpose of preparation of income tax returns, the bank will help the customers to through their tax service departments. And some of the banks also have the facility of giving insurance for their customers. Like SBI has its SBI life insurance. So they have insurance as a parallel. So these are some of the agency functions. So once you have understood the agency functions, let's move on to the next set of functions, which is the utility function. So here utility function means it is also known as the social development function, and in some areas the banks will help people to transact with the daily course or transact with the course of time. Those functions we call it as utility functions, where we use their service. Okay, to start with the utility functions, you can start with drafts, issuing of drafts or letter of credit. So here it might be draft or letter of credit. Let's know what is letter of credit. It also comes in this category. Letter of credit means where if you're trading with two different countries. Now here you have an account in a bank and there you have another account. There will be buyers and sellers in both the offshore and onshore. But when the financial transaction is involved, you need a guarantor who will say, yes, my client or my customer will pay you the money once they buy. That kind of guarantee is provided by the banks. That is known as the letter of credit. Earlier, it was very much a compulsive document where the customers have to approach the domestic bank for the letter of credit, and once they get the letter of credit, they go to the offshore and give it to the seller, and on the basis of that, the loan or amount or transaction will be made. And then they can also issue drafts, that is for transferring of money, demand drafts from one place to another place. That can also be done. They can also issue traveler's check. If you're traveling abroad, there is changes in the currency, fluctuations will be there. Or else if you're traveling locally also, if you can't carry cash much, it's quite risky. If you lose them, then there will be no one to help you out there. In such kind of situation, this traveler's check is very, very easy, handy, comfortable for usage, where the customer can approach the bank, get a traveler's check, travel abroad or travel around. Then whenever there is a need, they can use that traveler's check for payment of money. Coming to the next, we have locker facilities. Locker facility, you can keep safe custodian of your jewels or important documents or your share or debenture certificates, whichever you feel is very important. If there is any home papers, that is house property papers, that you can keep it. They provide a locker facility that will keep a safe, valuable document safe. But the disadvantage is they do not take any kind of responsibility. That is the disadvantage. It is just like a relationship between a tenant and a owner. Owner lets the house to the tenant, for which the tenant pays the rent, but there is no guarantee. In the same way, the important documents are kept in the bank, for which regular amount is collected on the basis of half yearly or annually. It is collected from the customer as a rental charges, but they will not give any guarantee for the safety of valuables. Okay, that is about the locker facility. Next comes the underwriting of shares. To understand the underwriting of shares, first you have to understand how a company issues the primary shares. Whenever the public limited company is in need of capital, then they go for this public issue or primary issue. Primary issue is where the first time shares are sold to the public. And whenever these shares are sold to the public, there are chances of oversubscription and undersubscription. For example, if you are giving applications for 10,000 shares, if you receive only 9,000 applications, then it is undersubscription. If you receive 12,000 applications, then oversubscription. This underwriter's role is important at the times of undersubscription. Means you're issuing 10,000 shares, but you have got only 9,000 applications. 1,000 applications you have not got, for which you have to generate an additional capital. At that time, these underwriters come into picture. Before issuing the shares, they make an agreement stating that in case of undersubscription, whatever leftover undersubscription shares are there, that is being taken over by the underwriter for a percentage of commission. Later on, they sell the unsubscribed shares in the secondary market. But until then, to make the process easy and make the process happen, the underwriter's role is very, very important. These banks will also help in preparation of prospectus, drafting of applications, collecting the application money from the shareholders, collecting the allotment money, collecting the first call money, and transferring that money to the company people. The bank takes the complete responsibility. And even in the prospectus, they have to mention which bank are they tie up with. That is about the underwriting. Next comes the dealing with the foreign exchange. Before going to the project, let's discuss about the dealing in foreign exchange, wherein now you'll know that each country's currency is different, and every moment there are changes in the currencies. The fluctuation happens, and that is due to the exchange rates. And these exchange rates or the transaction of this foreign exchange, that is foreign currencies, the banks are the authorized dealers where you can buy and sell the foreign currencies, but at the rate prescribed by RBI. And also you get the offshore facility. That is, offshore means here sitting in the domestic country, you can trade with any currencies of foreign, that is the offshore, and you can also get finance from the foreign countries. NRI investment, that is nothing but getting the funds from foreign countries to the domestic investment. Then you have social welfare programs. It undertakes social welfare programs like adult literacy programs, public welfare campaigns. So these are all a kind of schemes which help the society. And next, project. So these banks help the customers in framing a project report, seeing its financial viability, whether this can be practicably possible or not, and putting a draft of the project report. The banks helps the customers out in this. Okay, whenever there is a new venture you want to start, or whenever you want to write a new proposal, then banks will help you with this. And coming to the other utility functions, as we have discussed about other agency function, utility functions are also more. For example, information, they act as a information bank. Information bank means you want any kind of information, maybe statistical, maybe economical, maybe financial data of related to trade, commerce, industry. Then banks are in a position where it is possible for them to give you those information. And also the banks act as a referee. Suppose if you want to know the credibility of a customer, okay, how it's his financial position, or how is his credit worthiness, if you want to know about it, then the third party can approach the bank to know the genuineness of the customer. That is also possible. Okay, and coming to the other utility functions, like you have apart from these, you have factoring and leasing functions. Factoring and leasing functions, like factoring services. Suppose if a company does not want to collect money from the customer themselves, then they can approach these banks, or so that on behalf of the customer, the bank will collect the money. That is known as factoring. And lease financing, they give finance for the lease purpose. If you want to lease any equipment or a house, for that purpose also they help you out in lease financing. They also issue gift checks. If you want to give a gift for someone, nowadays people have become very much choosy with the products and things they use. So whenever you want to gift something to a person, you need to think a lot what need to be gifted. So rather than that, the worth of the gift is been given as a gift check. So with that, any gift can be bought of their wish, how they like, that kind of gift can be bought by them. So on any auspicious occasion, on any special event, you can use this gift checks, and this is available with various denominations. There is no limitations on this. And coming to the advising and other agency, other utility functions, it also acts as an advisory in the financial matters. For example, if there is any merger happening, takeover happening, if there is any expansion in the companies or any modernization, regarding that, the banks will advise its customers or the corporate people as to how it has to be done and what is the finance involved in that particular process, because they have a better idea about this. Okay. And other utility functions include donations. Now it might be the coronavirus relief fund, or PM relief fund, or army relief fund. To whichever relief fund, if you want to contribute from your end, then automatically you can do that through the bank accounts. So these are other utility functions. Like this, the list goes on, and with this, let's summarize what we have learned today. Functions of commercial banks was the topic which we discussed, and the functions are being divided into two categories: primary functions and secondary functions. In primary function, again it is being segregated as deposit and advances. Depending on the need of the customer, they can take any kind of deposit account. It can be savings account, fixed account, current account, recurring account, and also they can have all four as they wish. And also advances. In advances, they can take the help of overdraft, cash credit, loans, or discounting of bills. Coming to the secondary functions, again it is split into agency function and utility function. Agency function is a function for which the banks will generate income in the form of commission or charges, whereas utility function is a kind of service which is being provided by the banks. Agency functions like fund transfer, periodic payment, that is collecting, you need to make the payments. In the same way, it is opposite of periodic collection, where you collect the amount which need to be deposited to your account. Then collection of checks, portfolio management, where you manage the different kinds or set of shares, debentures, or bullion, and other agency functions which includes your periodical payments. Then utility function. Utility function includes your drafts, lockers, underwriting, project management, social welfare, or which acts as a trustee, or you can give referrals. Information can be got from the bank, or information can be flowed from banks to government. Like this, the banks undertake various kinds of functions. Thank you.